Hello everybody, welcome to another Woodworking Wisdom. Today we've gone real back to basics. We're doing some bookmarks. So we're not using any machinery. All I've got here is my fire writer, so a little pyrography unit. We've got some veneers. We've got a bit of leather, so we're going to explore a bit of kind of pyrography and how to do that onto leather. We've got some kind of punches and yeah, a little bit of glue. So we've got real basic kind of bits and bobs here. We're going to make some really nice simple bookmarks. So we're going to start off with a bit of leather. This is just a piece of leather. This is a veg tan leather. You want it to be the veg tan really. Some of the other tans that they use are toxic, so when we start burning this, it's going to produce a toxic smoke. So make sure it's a veg tan leather, and you can get it in different colours. We've chosen this quite light colour to offer a good contrast against the burning. Really easy to work with. I'm just going to use my my little FLEXCUT carving knife and cut a strip off this. That's a decent length for me. You could go that way if you wanted a longer one, if you wanted to put long tassels on it, but we're just going to go across the kind of width, if you will, for now. And all I'm doing is trying to parallel it to that edge there, and we're going to just take a couple of cuts with our knife. Steel rule. And these cutting mats are really good, these kind of self-healing cutting mats. That's going to stop me from scoring into the bench. So really useful bit of kit that. So quite a decent pressure. Make sure we don't slip with this, a very sharp knife. So I'm kind of bringing it right up against that steel rule, trying to keep things nice and straight and parallel. I can use this as a reference. So line that up against these bottom lines. Line my rule up here and here, and it's 4 centimeters wide, 40 mil wide. So nice decent pressure. Try and keep the knife up against the rule. Sometimes you might need a couple of goes through, and there's our little bit of leather. It's got kind of a fluffy back. Sometimes these little fibres, you can just scorch them off if you wanted. So something like a lighter or a naked flame, just across around the edges. Unless that could be part of the design, that it's a little bit fluffy. I quite like to scorch them off. So we've got our bookmark, or our piece of leather ready. I'm going to cut some little tassels into this. So again, just going to kind of mark that with a pencil so that they're all the same kind of length, or roughly. So again, just using this, I've got about 25 mil there. Just going to draw a faint line across with a pencil, and this will erase with a pencil eraser. Using the steel rule, we're just going to, again, try and keep it parallel to the edge and just start to cut some little tassels into our leather. And it does stretch if you put too much pressure on, so we're just going nice and gentle, coming up to that line each time and cutting some little tassels. These are about 4 mil wide, but you can do them however you like. You could measure the distances out. I'm just kind of doing it roughly by eye. So really nice material to work with, nice and soft. And it's got that lovely leather smell to it as well. Go just past the kind of halfway point with these cuts, and then I'll flip the rule over so we're cutting on the other side because otherwise it's going to start tipping. No, we're not. We're going to carry on like this, because otherwise I can't see the spacing. Putting strong pressure down on the rule to hold the workpiece in place. I'm just wondering whether we get 2 or 3. I think 2 out of this last bit. And then again, kind of pressure down with the rule, hold it in place, and just run the knife along there. And then we've got a bunch of little tassels. Okay, again, it's almost like breakout, like you'd get on the timber. We get these little fluffy bits. Like I said before, you can scorch them off without kind of marking or discolouring the leather. That little pencil mark, we're just going to run our pencil eraser over. And it's gone. Okay, so we are going to go with a little design on this one of a kind of a open book with kind of stars and things coming out of it, like the magic's coming out of the book. So going to start just by freehanding a little book. I've got one here that I've started as a reference, so I'm kind of copying that. So we want to start with the kind of spine of the book. Nice and light with your pencil marks. Here's the kind of cover, and I'm kind of curling it as we go. So it's a wide open book. I feel like that one's a little bit smaller, so I'm going to make that a bit bigger. And we can always correct that when we do our pyro. Good. Now some pages. So we're going to do almost the kind of reverse shape there. We'll darken that up with the pyrography in a bit. So it looks like the kind of spine is, you know, when you open the book, you get that kind of semicircle behind where the pages sit. Now I'm going to do a chunk of pages that kind of come over the top like that, and down here, and then off at a slight angle. This side's going to be more kind of separate pages, and then we're going to do a couple of pages that kind of flying up to really give that impression that the book is kind of open and the pages are kind of fanning out. Cool. So I think we can burn that in now. We'll use our pyrography unit. So just using the firewriter. So ANTEX firewriter. And in here I've got quite a sharp tip. It's not as sharp as my usual ones that kind of cut into wood, but it is nice and thin, and it's going to give us a nice kind of clear straight line. Temperature comes right down when we start to work on leather. Okay, it burns much more readily than any timber would. So I've brought the temperature down to about 4.5. I'll start to make a few marks and see how that works. And we can always drop the temperature or bring it up if we want to. Okay, so like I say, temperature's down nice and low. We're going to put in the kind of cover of the book first. So just touch on. I can see that the temperature needs to come up a touch. So always best to kind of work your way up from cool. And we can come up a bit more. So I'm going through kind of half increments on the little dial on the fire writer there. And now we're starting to kind of burn the leather. You can see how fine that line is through having this thin tip. Just working nice and slow. And we can always go over again or bring the temperature up just a touch more if you feel you can kind of get away with it. So I've put my other hand in almost like a steady, so that my thumb holding the fire writer is resting on my other hand, and I find you get a lot more stable line with that. Sometimes my hand shakes a little when it's kind of floating. So grounding it against something with my heel of my hand against the bench, those two offer a really nice kind of stable bit for the pen. Cool. So we've got nice clean lines all around our book cover. And then we're going to start to put in some of these pages. And I'm just going to drop the temperature a little bit, so it's not quite as bold, hopefully, as the cover. And then I'm just going to fill these in. Great. So we've got that effect of the book kind of open with the pages kind of fluttering, and we're going to do some shapes coming up out of the book, kind of like you've opened the book and all this kind of magic's pouring out of it. And we are going to use a little set of stamps. These are kind of punches or stamps. This is a 27-piece set, and these are the shapes. You can get them in numbers and letters. So if you wanted to personalize this with someone's name, you could do that with an alternative set of stamps. You could burn people's names on as well if you wanted to personalize it for someone, if it's a gift. We're going to keep this one a little bit generic and keep it, we're going to have stars and things like that kind of coming out, maybe a few musical notes. So we've got star here, almost like a snowflake one, so that looks a bit like the star. We're going to have, well, as we say, the musical note is quite cool. I imagine people listening to or imagining music in their book. We've got hearts if it's a romance, all sorts of stuff that we can use. Don't go too over the top, but we want just a few little suggestions of different shapes coming out of this book. Okay, so on the side of these stamps as well, they have the shape stamped in them of what it is, so I'm just going to orientate them so I can see them at a glance. Nice and easy. And we're going to start off with the stars. I think that's going to be our main shape. Any little pencil marks left in here we can just remove with the pencil eraser. That's going to get rid of that and just tidy up that book shape. Cool. And we're going to start by stamping these. So I've got my little star. It's a 5-pointed star. So I'm trying to work out where I'm kind of holding it so I can get some kind of direction on which way the star's going out. And we're going to give this a real firm little hit with our hammer, and then away, and hopefully you can see the little indent on our leather. We're going to cluster them up close to the book here, and I've just turned that through just a few degrees to give the impression that they're kind of coming out of the book. So 3 in nice close to these pages, just one strike, and we can pick some of these out with pyrography as well. So starting to kind of put some space between these. Oops. I bashed my leather there. Let's see if that mark will come out with the pencil eraser, and then we're going to whack a star on top of it to hide it. Good, and we'll pyro that one as well. That did leave a little mucky mark off the hammer there, but that's not going to affect it too much. So quite a concentration down by the book here. Let's do another one to make it even more obvious, I think, in nice and close to these pages. A nice firm strike. And then they kind of get less as we go up the bookmark. I've got this one here, which is a bit like a kind of a snowflake shape. So again, let's keep them nice and close. So we've got a cluster down by the book. And then I think not too many of these. I think I'm going to put 3 of these. One right at the top there. Maybe a bit more central. Good. And kind of pick your placements as you go along. This could be a little romance novel, so let's put some hearts in. I think just 2. Let's keep the kind of more shapes down this end. We've got a heart there, so let's move it over to here, down here. So a little bit random. And then we've got this kind of musical note. Again, nice and close. And then probably one up here as well. Let's keep that top bit a bit bare. Nice. So we've got some shapes kind of coming out of our book. I'm going to pick up on a couple of these with some pyrography. Yeah. Let's pick out one of these stars. Temperature's down nice and low still from the where we did the pages. And we're not going to pick out all these shapes, just a couple of them. That brings the eye in, makes you look, and then you start picking up on those kind of indents, which form more of a texture than a kind of a look. That's one of our stars here. Let's do another one here, and then one higher up. Rotating the workpiece rather than putting my hand in a funny position. I think we'll pick out this one that had that mucky mark on it from the misfired hammer blow. I'm trying to keep all of this really quite fine. Of course, you could bring the temperature up and go heavier with the burns. Just careful as you go on this leather. So we've got 3 little stars running up there. Let's pop in one of these hearts. So because I've got this straight nib, I'm having to just follow that round gently with lots of kind of straight lines, really. This part's a little bit easier. Good. And then I think just one higher up. So let's go for one of these snowflakes. It's nice and easy. So there we go. You could punch a hole in this. There you get leather punches that punch holes. Put a little tassel on it. I find those tassels a little bit annoying, so I'm just going to keep it like this. But yeah, you could add a bit of colour if you liked, a little bit of stain. Be careful as it is porous and it will bleed, so try and keep within your pyrography if you're using stains and colours. But that's a really kind of simple way of making a leather bookmark. And of course you can put whatever design you like on there. And I quite like the fact that these aren't instantly visible. It kind of draws you in a little bit through looking at the other parts. So got a bit of veneer here. This is really nice. This is a kind of a curly maple veneer. You can see it's got like a little bit of cupping to it. So we're going to address that in just a moment. What we want to do is cut a strip out of here where we can get our material from, and you can see that there's a little split here, but we don't want to waste this. This is all good stuff. So that's kind of dictating our width a little. So what I'm going to do is just pop a steel rule up as close as I can get that to our split. And also on the end of the bit here where we're going to cut it, I'm just going to pop a little bit of masking tape. And then when the knife comes down to this point, it's not going to split out. It's and kind of knock the corner off. So just a little bit of masking tape on the end there, where we're going to cut. I can still see where that split is, so I'm going to creep right up to that, and then keep the rule parallel to the edge, this nice straight edge we've got on our veneer. So we can use the full length of the rule because we want to get 2 bits out of here. Back to our little FLEXCUT carving knife, and I'm just going to drag this way a little bit so we're fully on our cutting mat. Just have a little reposition of our rule. Make sure we've got a nice kind of even amount on this side, and then we're going to cut it. Just repositioning my hand, making sure the rule doesn't move. And then we're cutting through that bit of masking tape, and that's going to give us a nice clean corner there. Sometimes when the knife comes out here, there's just that little bit of material and it breaks away. So we've kept that nice and clean by using our tape. Another cut across this way is trying to keep it fairly square on that corner. And you might need to run the knife down a couple of times. It's just holding on by a few little fibers. So let's get our knife railroaded in that cut we've done before. And that's it. I think that should be free now. Good. So now we can cut this in half and glue it together. It's a little bit thin and flexible, a little bit vulnerable like that. So let's measure how long that is. So we're 300 up to that point. And this can be rough because we can trim this afterwards. And then we've got another 25, so 325. So that's 150. And then we've got another one, so that's 160, 162.5. So just in there. And we could use that same trick if you wanted to on here. Just a little bit of masking tape, literally on that side here where we could break out. Good. And then that just peels off without making any marks. This is the low tack frog tape, the yellow one. Good, our maths worked. We're at the right length. And of course, if you've got a little bit just over, you can trim that off, or a little sanding disc or something like that. Now those, remember we said it had a slight cup, so they're both kind of cupping this direction. So I'm going to put them back to back, like that, open them up, and then we're going to glue these faces. So we're using just a normal TITEBOND PVA glue. And remember, if there's any cupping, we want it back to back, and then they should pull each other straight. We're going to put glue on both sides, because I found when I practiced this, if you just put it on one, that side tends to either expand or contract, and it will again put that little curve back in. We're not putting a ton of glue on this. We don't want it kind of seeping through the veneer. And this is quite a kind of thick PVA. We just want a good spread of that around. Dragging it right to the corners. There you can. And this is just one of those little artist brushes that will wash out with water, so we can use it again. So we drag the glue right the way to the edges, and you can see, hopefully, that they're cupping more now that they've got a bit wet. But we're just going to flip that over on top, get it lined up, And then we want to put that to one side with a bit of weight on it. I usually just put a piece of wood on top. That's enough to kind of hold that together. And then we've got one that we've pre-done. But yeah, you could put a lump of wood on top there. Again, we don't want too much glue so it's spilling out and gluing to this. Just a thin layer on both sides, a bit of weight on top, and then give it a couple of hours and then you're ready to go. So here's what we're working with. This is one we've made earlier, as it were. This is just 2 bits of the veneer stuck together, and this just gives it a little bit more strength because it is such a thin material. And we got that glue in between that's just giving it a bit of strength. It has still got a bit of give and flex. We don't want it too thick. We don't want it to kind of force pages apart when it goes back in the back of the book. So still nice and thin, but has a bit of strength as well. At this stage you could round the corners, you could incise this or cut or pierce this on the scroll saw. We are just going to put a little Tolkien symbol. So for fans of Lord of the Rings, this could be a good bookmark. We've also done a kind of Harry Potter style one there with the Deathly Hallows. So you can theme them around a book if you know someone likes a certain genre. You know, you could shape the piece of wood itself. So if you've got like a horror fan, they might want like a coffin shape, or you know, you could cut it into kind of any shape that you want, really. We're going with the kind of standard bookmark for today, but those are just a few ideas for you. So we're going to cut out our little symbol, centralize it on our piece of our 2 pieces of veneer, and I'm going kind of up towards the top. You could centralize it however you want to do it. So a little bit of masking tape just to hold that in place. We've got our carbon paper, and instead of using my pencil, I'm going to use a ballpoint pen just so it's a little bit sharper. Sometimes that soft pencil can leave just a bit too much carbon on the surface. So just following this design. Always like to have a little peek before I take that off. Make sure we've got the full design on there. That looks pretty cool, I think. Just double check we've not missed anything. We're good. Sometimes we go a little bit wonky with our designs, but I usually fix that when we get to the pyro stage. So back to the fire writer. I can crank the temperature up now. We're going up to 7.5 to start with. I'm keeping that same tip, so it's kind of sharp, but not really sharp that we're going to cut too far into this. Remember, we've got a layer of adhesive in the middle here, and we don't want to start burning that if we can help it. I'd like to keep the original close at hand, so we can kind of copy it. Even though we've got that burn in there, that carbon on there, it's still nice to have the original. So a couple of things just worth mentioning. As I'm coming around these corners, I'm twisting the pen with this straight tip, this kind of cutting style tip. So that's what's going to give you the curve by twisting the pen as we go. And also I'm trying to burn just outside of this carbon line so that we don't have to clear it up afterwards. If that's inside the burn, we don't need to sand it or anything like that afterwards. Really nice symbol, this one. It kind of reminds me of an Egyptian cartouche with the kind of oval frame around it. Really nice design. So remember, we had that little bit of a offline there, so I'm just going to try and imagine that swinging out a little bit further and just kind of round it off with the pyrography. That's a better shape now. Good. I've just got some little dots to do, but I won't be able to do them with this tip, so I'm going to quickly change our tip, and then we can pop those dots in and fill in that black area. So just changing this little tip out, we've got the kind of writing style round wire tip here. That's a brand new one that comes with the unit. You can see how much I don't really use those ones. So just use it, just backing off these little screws. Use the back of the screwdriver just to pull that one out. It could still be hot. And just popping that in. And, oops. Just grip down onto that. We don't want to over tighten these. We just want to nip them up. And then just a tiny bit further. We don't want to over tighten and break out the back of our little collars there. I'm going to use just a set of pliers just to crimp that in, so we've got a smaller end there. Just grab my pliers. So little flat jaw, these are jeweler's pliers, so they've got no serration in the jaws there. I'm just going to pinch that end in. Okay, so now we've got a smaller area there. That's going to be great for doing our little dots and filling in the rest of this. So we've got 4 little dots here. Oop. Potentially a bit hot here, so I'm just going to bring the temperature down. That's around about the 7 mark now. That's better. So really easy, literally just touching on there, and then we can fill this in. Just bring our temperature back up now. We want to do some heavy duty burning because we've got our kind of outside lines mapped in. I'm just going to use little circular motions, and that's going to give this a nice little texture as well. Just bring it right up close to what we've already burned. Oop. So we get a little carbon build up on the end of our tip there. sometimes it's nice to have like just a bit of abrasive. Get rid of that, and you'll find the burn is a lot hotter. So now we've got a really nice kind of old-fashioned looking burnt in Tolkien style. I think it really lends itself. It looks a bit like the kind of Victorian poker work. Now, you know, there's lots of things you could do to this. You can cut this different shapes. We could round off those corners with a bit of abrasive so they're not quite so sharp. Just run them down the edges there, make sure there's any fluffy bits have come off, and also it kind of hides that that glue line, so it looks like one solid piece of timber. Again, just roll that corner in. We don't really want any sharp bits. A little drop of oil, and that will look really nice. A couple of other ones I want to show you here that we've done. This one's got a little bit of colour with the spirit stains. That can be really nice. And just in that top part of the book, I've kind of forced that bit back by using a rule. So it's just sliding a rule up in there, and that's going to force this bit back and that bit forward, and then we can use that to kind of hook over a page. So if we go back to a piece of paper, that can just slide in there, and that will kind of grip on your book page. Again, themed to what people like reading. The leather ones are really nice. If you can get a bit of veg tan leather, remember, rules are just to keep the temperature down on your leather, and yeah, just have a little go with it. You can pierce these. You could use different coloured veneers. So if you wanted to cut a shape out, say the book Black Beauty or something like that, you could cut that horse shape out, have a dark piece in behind, and you know, that's really going to show the silhouette on there. If you're cutting veneers on the scroll saw, remember just to use a backing board, so a piece of wasting underneath. That way it's not going to break as the blade goes up and down through the little extraction port underneath. But yeah, a few little bookmarks there. This one's got finer tassels. You know, just messing around with a few shapes yesterday. Someone reading under the tree. But have an experiment. These can look really nice. Add colour. But yeah, that's our bookmarks. So a really nice, simple project. Get the kids involved. They always like making things and personalising them. And we're not using anything too dangerous here. Potentially get the parents to cut them out first, and then the kids can decorate. But really nice, safe little project. I hope you've enjoyed this today. If you've enjoyed it, please give us the thumbs up, subscribe, hit the notifications button, and we'll see you soon for more woodworking wisdom. Bye-bye.